Okay, so just to save some time, can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's go over some things from the past. If you missed last week's, keep in mind I always record everything. Um, but what we did was there was a. Did you click on Unit 5? There is an assignment we did with the characters. I kind of went over who the characters were and you're supposed to comment on something. Today we're gonna go over quickly about something called "Sinners in the Hands of Angry God." We'll go over that in a second. Let me make sure you can open that up. Actually, I think I have it here. Okay, so we'll go over that in a second. Hey, Alex isn't here today. Weird. Okay, so if you guys remember, the two main things you should have done or should be doing is on the corner you see this rhetorical analysis number 1, rhetorical analysis number 2. It is timed essays. So I give you the prompt, I give you the things in advance, and your job is to, when you open it up, you type the essay. But beforehand, it's not practice because you're getting graded, but it's not like the real version where it's you don't have you're given the prompt at the moment. You know the prompt ahead of time because I've given it to you. So what you need to do is do the second one. If you haven't done the first one, do that one as well today. And tomorrow, if you look onto our Google Drive, and it's the same way we're beginning on it, you need to sign up for a time for us to meet. And I can do 2 students at once. I still have 10 a.m.s and 11:30 a.m. I can do, you know what, I'll add a 4:30 p.m. and a 5 p.m. But I want to get it all done tomorrow. For everyone that submitted their rhetorical analysis number 1, I already went over it. If you haven't done it or you're confused about it, let's just quickly go over it. Where is that? All right. If you remember, if you haven't looked at it, this is very important to go over because timed essays are 20% of the grade, so you don't want to miss any of them. We're going to do about 4 of them. We already did 3 of them. So 1 we did at the very beginning of the year, and 1 we did last week, and 1 you're supposed to have done by tonight, actually. So we talked about it last time. The first rhetorical analysis was based on, I think it's the 2017 AP test. It's from this author named Claire Booth. So at the beginning, there is a passage. At the beginning, it says the passage, hold up, I can't see it just because my thing's in the way. Okay, that's better. Okay, the passage below is opening to a speech made in 1960 by American journalist and politician Claire Booth Luce to journalists in the Women's National Press Club. All right, so before we even get started, a lot of people did this good. You should try to find the space gap. So at the very first sentence, we already know the context. It was 1960 at a Women's National Press Club. We know who our speaker is, Claire Booth Luce. We know who the person is. She was a journalist and a politician. And from there, we already know like 3 things that is important. In the speech, Luce went on to criticize the tendency of the American press to sacrifice journalistic integrity in favor of perceived public demand of sensational stories. A lot of people understood that. That was her purpose. And early on in this first little paragraph, and it's not like I explained this to you, in the prompt, they already give it to you, so you already know. So just reading the first 2-3 sentences, you know exactly what you need. You know most of the space gap. The description is read the passage carefully, then in a well-developed essay, analyze how Luce uses the introduction to prepare the audience for her message. Support your analysis of her rhetoric with specific references in the text. Some people did an amazing job. Some people, you started understanding what you need to do, but you need to kind of change it. So once again, rhetorical analysis, it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. Like, that's not the purpose of essay. The purpose of essay is to show how it is persuasive, right? How it's persuasive. So Um, one part of it is identifying the rhetorical strategies. Some people are able to clearly do. You identify rhetorical strategies, but that's not the main part. What you need to do is explain how those strategies are able to help her make her message clear. How does she make it more persuasive? So for this one, and if you haven't done it, you still can do it today for our meeting for tomorrow. What you need to understand is she's giving a speech to let them know that one, she's gonna be critical of them, and that journalists, and it says in the beginning that journalists are giving up their integrity and honestness to be more like tabloids. Your job is to figure out what strategies they're using. I said this many times in the past. So instead of saying author, if you looked at, let's see, I provided a outline for you guys to use last time, and it's on Schoology, and you could follow it. Or if you feel like you know a better way to write it, you can, but this is a clear way of just laying out your thoughts. So Claire Luce, the politician, in her speech, yada yada, argues that, and you show what's her purpose, right? What she's doing. But the key thing is, you don't want to say she's using ethos, pathos, or logos. That's a very simplistic way of saying it. What you can say is, if you mean she's using logos, I wish I could go to, I forgot who wrote a good one. Kidia, if she was here, I asked her permission. Kidia, are you here? No, she's not. So some people are able to do it, but you don't ever want to just say ethos, logos, or pathos. Let me see. Octavio? Or Alex, do you mind if I look at your paper? Or show them your paper? I'll take your silence.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind either.
Okay, so let's look at it real fast. So Octavio actually did a really good job, and Alex, you did a good job too. But I mean, it's all trying to get, we're getting better. So, so in Octavio's first paragraph, he does an okay job. He sets up his argument. He says, Claire Luce, American journalist, politician, was a speaker at the Women's National Press Club. Luce shares with her audience her distaste for the American press due to their constant exaggeration of truth. So you flipped it around, which is fine. But as long as in that first paragraph, we understand who the speaker is, the context, who's her audience, and what she's trying to do. And then we need a sentence. It doesn't have to be in the middle, or it could be at the bottom, explaining her, explain the strategy she's using. So Octavio says, Luce effectively uses introductions to prepare her audience for the upcoming message through her word choice, her tone, and through using rhetorical appeals such as ethos. So the problem, it's good. It's a very simplistic one, but if you wanted to push it further to try to get like a high 5 or possibly even a 6, what you need to do is be exact. So instead of saying she's using ethos, tell me exactly how she's using ethos. And the second one, word choice and her tone. Every author has word choice and tone. What you need to do is explain in the thesis what type of word choice. So you do it in your body paragraphs. She says, Luce initially uses her word choice to effectively convince the audience that the American needs a lot of correction. Luce makes it clear what she believes and size compares. So you need to give like an adjective. So it's like a informative word choice. Is it a confident word choice? Same with tone. You do it in the paragraph. If you could see closely, if you guys could see what his paper, it says, moreover, Luce uses a careful tone, which is like a great word. It's a good adjective. But you should have put that in your thesis. So instead of saying her tone, put your careful tone in the thesis so we know what you're trying to say. Let's see. We could go to. Let's go to Kitty. Actually, let's go Alex. Alex, I'm going to your paper. So over here, Alex goes with Claire Boothe Booth was an American author, politician, U.S. ambassador, and public conservative figure. In her 1960 speech at the Women's National Conference, she has a point to get across to the women of the press, which she gets across to them by using rhetorical strategies such as diction, tone, and hypophora. So Alex actually went off and found a strategy, which is awesome. It's good, but the problem with it is same thing that Octavio did. You have to tell us what kind of diction, what kind of tone. Because everyone uses diction, but you have to use the adjective to explain what type. Let's see. Kidia, oh, she's not here. She did a good job in her intro. She puts Claire Boothe Booth, journalist and politician, in her speech at the Women's National Press Club, argues that journalists are losing their integrity for tabloid journalism. Booth develops an argument through the use of logic, having a great structure in her speech that allows it to flow smoothly, and by attitude of her speech. She argues that journalists should lose their morals by trying to write sensational stories. This maintains the audience of journalists. So she says she uses logic, and she talks about how her structure is good, and talks about the attitude of her speech. Attitude of her speech could be construed as tone, but she doesn't use the word tone. She actually is specific. She looks at the structure, and she says logic, which is very strong. So if you haven't done this yet, so it's still available. What you need to do is, when we talked about, read through it, and you'll have this short piece from Claire Boothe Booth. In the first paragraph, you want to give a space out of it. Just tell us who the speaker is, who the subject, the purpose, the audience, the context, and strategies. What strategies is the author using? Look at the outline again provided to help. Each paragraph should be dedicated, body paragraph should be dedicated to a separate strategy that's author using. Try to find one or two examples to support it. But your job is not to identify strategies. Your job is to show how those strategies are making the speech stronger, how they're making the message stronger. Next, let me show you. What you need to do by today is this other one. It's part 2. Find it there. It's called Rhetorical Analysis number 2. And that question surrounds older text. It's highly suspected that AP testing will use the older text, so this one will prepare for it. Same thing as last time. Try your best. You're not going to have this opportunity for the real test, but for this one, look at the piece ahead of time. I gave you the prompt ahead of time. Read through it, annotate it, and then when you're ready, start the test and type it up. So this one, if you look at it, I'll just look at the first paragraph. Florence Kelley, 1859 to 1932, was a United States social worker and reformer who fought successfully for child labor laws and improved conditions for working women. She delivered the following speech for the convention of National American Women's Suffrage Association in Philadelphia on July 22, 1905. Read the speech carefully. Then write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies Kelley uses to convey her message. So you always will see that. What strategies does she use to convey her message? You know the speaker was Florence Kelley. You know who she is. She's a U.S. worker, social worker, and reformer. We know when she spoke. We know why she's speaking. And the rest of this is to use as examples. I'm not gonna get into this. Hopefully you can sign up for this thing right here. It's on our Google Drive, and we have a not one-on-one, but one-on-two conversation about your essays and how you can improve. So please sign up for that. I'll add in more times. It's 4:30 slot, 5 o'clock slot, and it's okay if 2 people sign on at once. There's 10 a.m. and 11:30. from 12 to 1, I have a meeting with some people, so that's the only time I won't be available. Any questions about the art rhetorical analysis?
No.
No. All right. Is that Byron?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next, that's the AP prep. What you now need to do is by Friday. So this is your homework for today. By Friday, we're gonna go over Act 1 of this book, The Crucible. And I mentioned it many times, if you don't have the actual play, because you're absent the last day of school or whatever, if you go to Unit 5, you go to Unit 5, hit Unit Text, I have the PDF of play. We're gonna have a quiz on this at the end of the week. And if you want to prepare for that, discussions, assignments. Here's the assignment on Act 1. You see Act 1 guiding questions. If you click on it, you'll see about 20 questions about the play. And the way people do it is I put up the assignment and you're going to put up a picture of you doing it. So actual Act 1 questions, that's extra credit to do. But we're gonna have a quiz on those questions on Act 1 at the end of the week. On Friday, I'm gonna review what happened on the act, and after the session's over, I'm opening up the quiz, and you're allowed to take it. And obviously, it's open notes, so if you take notes on the act and follow the questions, you'll be able to answer the question clearly. The actual assignment, I'm gonna open up an assignment called Act 1 Guiding Questions, and you can submit a picture of the questions and you get extra credit for doing that. Any questions about that? Does that make sense?
Mr. Ta, I have a question on the flashcards.
Okay.
Are we supposed to, how are we supposed to send them, turn that in?
I guess you can take a picture of them doing it. So since the change to AP tests are not as necessary, but if you still did them, I give you extra credit for doing it. So
Okay.
I think Juliana submitted a picture of it, and I gave her some credit for doing it. But it's not required anymore but it's extra credit.
Okay.
Okay, so where is that document? Let's see, is it here? Right now, I would get out maybe a piece of paper or something to write with, or something to keep track of, or even on your phone, take notes real fast.
No.
Yeah. All right. So on Friday, it sounds like a lot of things. Let me just recap that. So tonight, I gave you the whole weekend to do it. You're supposed to do RA1, which was last week, and RA2. We're gonna have a discussion for tomorrow. By Friday, we want to have Act 1 done. Act 1 is in a play. There's a questions, and the questions are extra credit, so you don't necessarily have to do it, but you do have to know the play. We're gonna have a quiz on Act 1 and the Crucible characters, which was, if you attended last week's meeting on Friday, I went over the characters of the play, Abigail Williams, John Proctor, stuff like that. The last thing you need to know is this right here: sinners in the hands of an angry God. It's kind of so this is a sermon. A sermon is a speech that they read at in church. Let me make it smaller. So this is an in-class discussion. I'm gonna. It's a lot for me to just read to you guys. So what you need to do. What do you guys want to do? You guys want to read this on your own? Or you want me to read it to you?
I want to see you suffer. Read it.
Okay. All right. So this is Sinners in the Hands of Angry God. It's from Jonathan Edwards. The point of this is to show an example of the type of text that was available during the time period of the Salem witch trials. So people were heavily religious. They were overly religious to the point where they believed that the devil was a real thing. So as I read through this, what you need to keep track of are what examples of imagery does the author use? There are 4 main examples, and I'll stop and go over the examples, and you have to remember them and write about them. And as you write about them, number 2, what do you think of the type of sermon that was given at the time period? So we're gonna go through this. It'll probably take like 8 minutes. So this is Sinners in the Hands of Angry God. It's by John Edwards. It's a sermon from that time period. So that thus is natural men that are held in the hand of God over the pit of hell. They have deserved the fiery pit and already sentenced to it. And God is dreadfully provoked in his anger, is a great towards them as those that are actually suffering the executions of fierceness of his wrath in hell. And they have done nothing at least to appease or abate the anger. Neither is God in the least bound of any promise to hold them up. At one moment the devil is waiting for them, hell is gaping for them, the flames gather and flash above them, and would fain lay hold on them, swallow them up, and the fire pent up in their hearts is struggling to break out. And they have no interest in any meteor, no means within that reach that can bring any security to them. Alright, so far, that's the first paragraph. The images that should stand out is this right here, in the very first line, which says, so that thus is the natural men are held in the hand of God over a pit of hell. So the first image that he gives in the speech is that people are just these helpless things. Imagine God is like this huge hand, and they're holding people over like this gaping hole. And gaping means like a hole that's opening slowly. And this hole, like fire is coming out and shooting out, and people are just waiting to be dropped into hell, right? And that's to show how helpless people are. That's you in God's will. So that's the first image given. There's this huge hand, which is God's hand, and he's holding over a fiery pit of hell. All right, in short, they have no refuge, nothing to take hold of. All they're preserved at every moment is mere arbitrary will, uncovenant, obliged, and forbearance, and contempt God. So he's holding you up, and your arms are flailing. There's nothing for you to do to like catch yourself. The use of this awful subject may be for awakening unconverted person in this congregation. And he says this because he wants to scare you. He wants to wake you up to make sure that if you're a non-believer, that you believe now. This that you have heard is the case of every one of you that are out of Christ. That world of misery and the lake of burning brimstone is extended abroad you. There is dreadful pit of glowing flames of the wrath of God. There is hell's wide gaping mouth, and you have nothing to stand upon nor take hold of. There is nothing between you and hell but the air, and it is only the power and mere pleasure of God that holds you up. All right, so far we have this angry God, and he's willing to drop you into hell any moment. And we're still in that first image of this huge hand, and it actually clearly describes it. He's holding you, your arms are flailing, and this pit of fire is opening, and he could drop you at any moment because you're a sinner. So we'll go to here. You probably are not sensible of this. You find you are kept out of hell, but do not see the hands of God. But you look at other things as a good state of your bodily constitution, your care of your bodily life, and the means you view use of your own preservation. But indeed, these things are nothing. If God should withdraw his band, then you will be able to keep you from falling, then it's thin air. So same thing. Your wickedness makes you as if heavy as lead and tends downwards towards with this great weight and pressure towards hell. And if God should let you go, you would immediately sink and swiftly descend, plunge into the bottomless gulf. And your healthy constitution and your own care, prudence, and best contrivance, and all your righteousness would have no more influence to help you and keep you out of hell than a spider's web would have stopped a falling rock. So that's another image. It's still masked this idea that if you're held up and he drops you, you can fall into hell and descend to the pit. But he wants you to think that even you are as fragile as, imagine if a rock was falling and the only thing to save you is a spider's web, and that's how fragile your life is. face of this angry God. So there's two images presented. There's four we need to keep track of. First one is the idea of it holding you up over fire of hell, and second one is imagine if you are a rock falling through a spider's web. Next one. The wrath of God is like great waters that are dammed for the present. They increase more and more and rise higher and higher until an outlet is given. So wrath, it means anger, right? He's writing his anger. The anger of God is like water. And the longer it's streamed, it's stopped, and more rapid and mighty is the course when it once is loose. It is true that the judgment against your evil works has not been executed hither. The floods of God's vengeance have been withheld, but your guilt is, in the meantime, is constantly increasing, and you are every day treasuring up your wrath. So, the third image, I'm not gonna read the whole paragraph, is imagine God's anger is this fire, this water, right? And water. And then the only thing that's stopping him from destroying you is with his water is this dam. The dam is something that stops the flow of water. But the dam's breaking. Imagine you are holding up that dam and the water is just rising, and every second that you're sinning, the water is going to crush that dam and destroy your whole life. So the fourth and last one, we're not going to read the whole paragraph. The first and last one we found in this paragraph here. It says, the bow of God's wrath is bent, and the arrow made ready for the string, and justice bends the arrow at your hearts and strains the bow, and is nothing but the mere pleasure of God, and that of an angry God without any promise or obligation at all. It helps the arrow one moment from being made drink of your blood. All right, the last image, we're supposed to have four images, is this idea that God, he has another weapon, he has a bow and arrow, and that bow and arrow is aimed at your heart. He's ready to let it go because you're a sinner, and he's ready to kill you. Obviously, this is all like angry God stuff. The point of it is to scare people. So in this time period, they're Puritans, and now if you go to church, it's like to try to get you to be hopeful and stuff. But in the past, they wanted you to fear God, and by fearing God, it convinces you to follow the rules of the town, follow the laws, and it is a means of social control. They use God, the fear of God, to control the people, to make sure that they stay in line. So in this example of the sermon, and it is a common example for many sermons all across the colonies. Remember, this is 1680s, 1690s, so there isn't a United States yet. It's just colonies on this new country. He's scaring people. And the four images he uses is the first one. Imagine his hand is holding people over this pit of hell, and the whole of the fire of the whole is widening, and flames are engulfing. The second idea is this, and he goes back to it later on, is the idea that you imagine you're just this rock and you're falling, and there's nothing to stop you from falling, even a spider web. The third one is imagine there's this dam. The dam is stopping you from being destroyed, and the water is God's anger. It's metaphor, and it's trying to crash down on you, and eventually the dam's gonna break and destroy you because he's angry at your sins. And the last one is imagine if God's anger is a bow and arrow, and the arrow is aimed straight at your heart, and it's ready to shoot through you because, once again, you're a sinner. So at the very end, he pleads with the people. He says, "Oh, sinner, consider the fearful danger you are in a great furnace of wrath, a wide bottomless pit full of fire wrath that are held over in the sinners who's." And then it goes all the way down. It says, "Nothing that you can do induce God to spare you." So one of these things is to scare you, to make you fear God, so you are become a law-abiding Christian, right? Okay, so that's a lot. That's very heavy stuff. The key to that is kind of get you in that mood of the Salem town, to show you what they're a part of. It's a heavily religious area, to show that you understood what we're talking about, so you answer the discussion. This is in-class discussion. So what examples of images does it have to use? We talked about 4 of them. You might want to go back and use, if you you show me textual evidence that you understood. And 2, this is your opinion. What do you think of the type of sermon that was given at the same period? All right, so that's due. Let me change the due here. We originally gave that just before, so let's have that due by Friday. You can do it now. Mirrors are ready for it. So that's a class discussion, but those are like assignments. By Friday, we're dealing with Crucible, so you're looking at Act 1, some questions. After Friday, we have some quiz. But before that, remember you have to do rhetorical. A lot of people did number 1, but remember you have to know number 2. And you need to sign up for our timed essay conference. So you're gonna learn about what you guys did right and what you guys need to improve for your papers. All right. Any questions about anything?
Kim Jong-un is gonna die.
That's not a question.
Is he?
All right. You guys, any questions about anything?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
No, sir. All right. So, key things to remember: do the in-class discussion. Make sure you do the rhetorical analysis essays, and start on Act 1. We're good?
Yes.
Yes. Is that?
Yes.
I'll post it on Schoology, and I'll remind you guys on the group here right now. But I have a meeting at 3. I've been had Zooms nonstop since 10 a.m. So it's been a long day. All right.
You're on the grind.
On the ground, you know what? I have another one until next, and I have another one at 5, and it's gonna keep going. But you know what? I like seeing you guys, even though you're all blacked out your faces.
Yeah, not today, mister.
Not today. You didn't put your makeup on today.
We all look.
No.
We all look ugly today.
Alex, wait, Byron, you still pregnant?
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. That sucks, bro.
Is that your kid, Alex?
Yeah.
Nah, bro.
Yeah.
Nah,
Gotta keep up
that's not my
lifestyle.
lifestyle, bro. Nah.
You know what? It'll be a cute
That's
kid.
not my lifestyle.
All right. Well,
Bro.
thank you guys for joining us today. I'll post the video if you guys have any questions. But see you guys. Peace. See you on Friday.
Adios. Adios.
Peace.
Bye, mister.
I have a question.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So okay, so just to like